Level 1, the decision. The coffee goes cold before you're done with it. That's the part that sticks later. Not the spreadsheet glowing on your laptop screen, not the number you've underlined again and again. Just the cold coffee, the microwave clock blinking 11:47 p.m., and the quiet of an apartment where the loudest thing is the low hum of the refrigerator and the rhythm of your own breathing. You are 25. You earn $54,000 a year, close to the median. And depending on the moment, it feels like either more than enough or nowhere near enough. You have $6,200 saved. You carry $23,000 in student loans. Your credit card balance sits at $2,800, something you've been planning to clear for so long that planning to has started to feel like a permanent trait instead of a temporary phase. Tonight, you make a decision that would sound almost insignificant if you tried to explain it out loud. You don't quit your job. You don't reinvent your life overnight. You don't run away or start over. You decide to stop letting your money drift without direction. From this point forward, 70 cents of every dollar you earn will have a job, paying down debt or going into low-cost index funds. The remaining 30 cents will carry everything else: rent, food, your day-to-day life. No guru told you this. No best-selling book handed you the plan. It came from a calculator, a few quiet hours, and a level of honesty you've been avoiding until now. You check the math twice. Then again, because you don't quite trust it. At your current pace, saving around 8%, which is already above the national average, you're looking at real flexibility sometime around 58. At 70%, a number that feels almost unreasonable, that timeline shifts forward to 35. The gap between 58 and 35 isn't just years. It's an entirely different version of your life. You close the laptop. Nothing in the room has changed. It's the same place you ate breakfast this morning, the same walls, the same furniture. But the decision is made. No one sees it. No one reacts. There's no applause, no acknowledgement. That's the part no one explains. The decisions that actually alter your life rarely feel dramatic when they happen. They're quiet. Almost invisible. The coffee is cold. You pour it down the sink. Something small and irreversible has just begun. Level 2, the silence. 3 months in, Marcus buys a new apartment. Not just new to him, new. One of those recently built downtown towers, all glass panels and polished concrete, with a gym that overlooks the skyline. You go to his housewarming party on a Saturday in March. You stand in the living room holding a small plate, eating imported cheese, and you notice something you didn't expect. You feel invisible. No one is rude. Marcus is warm, generous. The people are friendly. The apartment is undeniably beautiful in that effortless way expensive things tend to be. But no one here is asking about what you've been building. No one is interested in your index funds. No one leans in to talk about your brokerage account the way they admire the kitchen island or the floor-to-ceiling windows. You've followed your system for 11 weeks. You've paid down $1,900 of your credit card balance. You've cut your subscriptions from 7 to 2. You drive a 2017 Honda Fit you bought outright for $8,400, no monthly payment, good fuel economy, nothing flashy, nothing worth commenting on. Your paycheck now moves differently. The day it arrives, $3,150 leaves automatically. $1,200 goes into retirement and investments. $800 goes toward debt. The rest supports your life. You are building something solid. You know this logically. You can explain it, justify it, defend it. But you can't quite feel it yet. At the party, someone asks what you drive. You tell them. There's a pause, just slightly longer than it needs to be. Then they nod and move on. That's what this phase is. Not one dramatic moment, but a series of small absences. Tiny gaps where recognition might have been. Spaces where status would normally fill the air. This is the silence. The way conversations that once opened easily now end a little sooner. The friend who no longer asks if you want to split a vacation rental because they already know what you'll say. The coworker who stops mentioning the Thursday happy hours that quietly turn into $45 nights after tip. You keep following the rules. What no one explains about choosing a simpler financial life is that the social cost is real and it comes early. You pay it before the results show up. You pay it before the numbers have time to justify the choice. You pay in invisibility. In the very specific loneliness of doing something no one around you is doing, without having anything to point to yet. It is month 3. Your brokerage account holds $4,100. It doesn't look like much. It doesn't feel like momentum. It feels like a number sitting in a place no one else can see. But somewhere else in the same city, in a brighter building, in a room filled with people and good food, something else invisible is happening too. The separation has started. Level 3, the gap. Year 2. The debt is gone. All of it. The credit card, cleared. The student loan, finished 11 months ahead of schedule. When you make the last payment, it doesn't feel like a victory. There's no surge, no release. Just a quiet absence. A background noise that had been there so long you stopped noticing, it's simply gone. You redirect the payments immediately. No celebration. No lifestyle upgrade. The money that used to leave now stays, but with purpose. This was the rule you feared the most. No lifestyle inflation when your income increases. At month 14, you get a raise, $4,200 more per year. It should feel like relief. Like permission. Instead, you increase your automatic investments by $350 a month. The rest dissolves quietly into your regular life, without intention, without meaning. Now you understand something you couldn't fully grasp at 25. This is the rule that separates intention from outcome. Plenty of people talk about building wealth. Fewer actually structure their lives to make it happen. Across studies, across reports, across years of data, the conclusion repeats itself in slightly different language. Your saving rate matters more than almost anything else. More than picking the perfect investment. More than timing the market. More than chasing returns. Consistency is what carries it. The math works if you let it. Most people don't. By month 26, your investments reach $19,400. No one reacts to that number. No one brings it up over dinner. It doesn't photograph well. It doesn't come with a celebration. It just exists, quietly compounding. At an average return, it is doing something steady, something patient, something exponential in the background while your life looks mostly the same on the surface. You have a friend named Devin. Devin is 26, 1 year younger than you. Works in logistics. Earns $49,000 a year. Recently, Devin financed a $52,000 truck. The payment is $980 a month. Insurance adds another $290. Devin is kind, dependable, quick to laugh, the kind of person you'd call without hesitation if something went wrong. As far as you know, Devin has nothing invested. The truck is spotless. Devin takes pride in it. And you understand that completely. Because you remember what you were searching for before you made your decision. You were reaching for the same feeling, something visible, something immediate, something that said you were doing okay. From the outside, nothing has changed much between you. Same age range. Same income bracket. Same city. Same general circle. But underneath that surface, something has shifted so dramatically that in a few years, the distance between your paths will be hard to ignore. That's the part people rarely talk about. Not the discipline. Not the sacrifice. The gap. The quiet, widening distance between someone who starts early and stays consistent, and someone who plans to begin later. Because at its core, compound growth isn't magic. It's time. That's all it is. You are buying time. Every dollar you invest at 26 carries more weight than one invested at 36, not because it's special, but because it has 10 extra years to do its job. You replace the tires on your Honda Fit. $480. You don't hesitate. You don't feel guilty. For the first time, spending money feels like a decision, not a reaction. The one in, one out rule has reshaped your apartment into a place you actually enjoy being in. Nothing sits unused. Nothing lingers without purpose. Every object earns its place. Clutter, you realize, isn't just visual, it has weight. Not in theory, not in the way books describe it, but in a way you can feel physically. A low-level pressure you didn't notice until it was gone. You feel lighter. Still invisible. Still quiet. Still building without an audience. In another year, the numbers will begin to show something you won't be able to ignore. You're not prepared for how that will feel. Level 4, the pressure. Year 3. Something gives, but it isn't the plan. The system is working exactly as intended. What cracks is harder to define. It sits somewhere beneath language, somewhere in your chest. It surfaces on a Friday evening in October. You're sitting in your apartment, clean lines, intentional space, and suddenly, without warning, you feel it. Alone. Not lonely, exactly. Something sharper than that. The kind of aloneness that comes from choosing a different path and realizing, all at once, how far it's taking you from everyone else. You missed your cousin's trip to Las Vegas in September. Not because it was impossible. You could have made a version of it work. A cheaper flight. A modest hotel. A controlled budget. But that wasn't the trip. Built on swipes of credit cards and decisions no one was slowing down to evaluate. You ran the numbers, because now you always do. $600 for the trip. Another $300 in lost investment potential. Over 10 years, at average returns, that decision carried a future value closer to $1,500. So you didn't go. At 2 a.m., a photo arrives in the group chat. Everyone on the strip, smiling, lit by neon and energy and the illusion of permanence. They look like the best versions of themselves. You turn your phone face down and sit there, letting the feeling settle. Is this the trade? Is this what it means to build a life like this? To design something disciplined and quiet while everyone else is out living something louder, more visible? This is the question you've been avoiding. The cost hasn't been dramatic. It's been cumulative. The dinner you skip because it's outside your range. The conversation where you have nothing to add about renovations or new cars or last-minute trips. The subtle language of status that you no longer speak. You've stepped outside of it without announcing it. And now you feel the distance. Most conversations about money talk about stress, how it strains relationships, how it creates pressure. Yours is different. The absence of financial chaos is shaping your relationships in its own way. You call your mother on Sunday. She asks if you're okay. You say yes. She pauses just long enough for you to know she isn't fully convinced. There's something else no one really says out loud. Choosing financial independence in your 20s runs against the current of everything around you. Every system, advertising, social media, the stories embedded in what you watch and scroll through, is engineered to make spending feel like progress. Like maturity. Like success. Like what responsible adults do. Stepping away from that doesn't feel neutral. It feels like resistance. And resistance is uncomfortable, especially when you're carrying it alone. Especially at 27. Especially on a Friday night when your phone keeps lighting up with images of people somewhere loud and bright and alive in a way that translates perfectly into photos. That month, you question everything. The rules. The math. The version of yourself you're becoming. You wonder if you're building something meaningful or just watching life from a distance, optimized into a spreadsheet. And then something happens that pulls you back. You check your account. Level 5, the turning point. $47,300. You look at it once. Then again. You've been consistent for 33 months. There was a stretch, months 14 through 18, when the market dropped. Your balance went down. For a few weeks, it felt like everything was reversing. You felt it physically, a tightening in your stomach, the urge to react. But you didn't. You stayed in. That decision, doing nothing, turns out to be one of the most important financial choices you've made. The market recovered. Then it kept moving. Now here you are. $47,300. Built from steady contributions and time. Your income never went beyond $62,000. Your savings rate started at 70% and stayed there, even as your income slowly increased. Because you refused to let your lifestyle expand with it. No sudden upgrades. No quiet drift upward in spending. Just consistency. And for the first time, the numbers aren't abstract anymore. They're starting to speak. You sit with that number for a while. This is the turning point, but it doesn't arrive with drama. No music, no sense of climax. No one calls to congratulate you. You're sitting on your couch in an apartment that costs $1,240 a month. 24% of your take-home pay, just within the boundary you set for yourself. In a city where a one-bedroom averages closer to $1,890, you're looking at $47,300 that exists outside your labor. Money that continues moving whether you do anything or not. Devin bought new rims for his truck last month. $1,800. He put it on a credit card. He showed you a picture. They look good. You tell him that, and you mean it. But at the same time, you can't help seeing the other version of that number. At your age, invested and left alone, $1,800 becomes something closer to $12,000 by your mid-40s. You're not judging him. You're not running comparisons. It's just there now, the math. Like a language you learned later than everyone else, but one you now think in automatically. This is the point people mention but rarely explain clearly. Somewhere around year 3 or 4, the numbers change shape. They stop being abstract. They start feeling like time. Real, exchangeable units of future freedom. At $47,300, growing at an average rate, your investments generate around $4,700 a year. Roughly $391 a month. On its own. That number is small. It's also the beginning of something that compounds forward without asking permission. It grows. Then it grows faster. Then it reaches a point where the monthly output exceeds your rent. For the first time, you feel it not as a concept, but physically. The accumulation of patience. The weight of consistency. The doubt from October doesn't disappear. But it shrinks. It becomes background noise beneath something steadier, quieter, more certain. You increase your automatic investment by another $200 a month. You do it immediately, before you can negotiate with yourself. The following week, you take Devin out for lunch. You split the bill. It's reasonable. You laugh more than you have in a while. Nothing about the path has shortened. But for the first time, you can clearly see where it leads. Something has shifted. There's no returning to how you used to think. Level 6, the arrival. Year 8. You are 33. It's a Tuesday morning, 10 a.m., and you're sitting in a coffee shop. You don't need to be anywhere until 1. Not because you took time off. Not because you're sick. Just because. This is what enough starts to feel like from the inside. It looks like finishing your coffee while it's still hot. Your brokerage account holds $214,000. Your Roth IRA adds another $68,000. Together, $282,000 invested. The median net worth for people in their late 30s includes homes, debt, everything combined, and still sits below that number. You're 33. And what you've built is liquid, flexible, working quietly in the background. This wasn't exactly the plan. The plan was always a number. The number you defined at 25. The one you adjusted over time. For you, that number is $400,000. At that level, a modest withdrawal rate produces around $16,000 a year. Not enough to fully retire, but enough to remove pressure. Enough that your survival no longer depends entirely on exchanging time for money on someone else's terms. That was always the real goal. Not things. Not status. Options. You're not there yet. But you're close enough to feel its outline. You can see the shape of the life waiting on the other side. Your Honda Fit has 91,000 miles on it. You've taken care of it carefully. Because a reliable, paid-off car isn't just transportation. It's one of the most quietly powerful financial decisions you can make. No payments. No surprises. No drag on your momentum. Just something that works, consistently, like everything else you've built. The average new car payment now sits around $726 a month. You haven't had one in 8 years. If you run that single decision through the same lens you now use for everything, monthly cash flow redirected, invested consistently, left alone, it adds up to something near $120,000 over that time. One choice. Repeated. Your rent is $1,450 now. Prices rose, like they always do. But you kept it under 25% of your take-home pay. That required one move 2 years ago. And a stretch of sharing space with someone else, something you expected to resent, but didn't. You'd do it again without hesitation. The one in, one out rule is still there, but it doesn't feel like a rule anymore. It's just how you live. Your space reflects intention. Nothing piles up by accident. Nothing stays out of inertia. There's a difference between a place that fills over time and one that is chosen piece by piece. Yours feels like the latter. Devin bought a house last year. He's 32 now. The mortgage is heavy. The down payment stretched him thin, everything he'd managed to put aside. But it's his. Solid. Visible. Real in a way numbers on a screen aren't. You go to the housewarming. He grills food. You stand in the backyard, holding a plate, listening to him talk about repairs and plans and things he wants to build. And for the first time in a long time, you feel something uncomplicated. Pride. Not comparison. Not distance. Just pride for him, and quietly, for yourself. The tension that used to sit underneath those moments has faded. Because you've started to understand something you didn't before. Arrival isn't a place you reach and stand on. It's a threshold. A shift. The point where the future begins to cost less than the present used to. Where you stop chasing time and time begins to accumulate on its own. You order another coffee. Morning light filters through the window. And you think about who you were at 25, sitting in a quiet apartment, staring at numbers late at night, a cold drink beside you, something tight in your chest that felt close to panic. You want to tell him something. But you already know the truth. The lesson doesn't transfer. It has to be lived. Level 7, the truth. You are 35. You're sitting in a normal room, in a normal chair. Nothing about the setting signals anything extraordinary. And yet, you've crossed the number. $430,000. That enough you defined a decade ago, adjusted along the way, refined with time, now sits in front of you as something real. When you first see it, you react the same way you did years ago. Silence. But this time, the silence carries meaning. When you started, you thought you were solving for money. You thought the system you built was financial. Savings rate. No car payments. Index funds. Housing limits. Cutting unnecessary spending. You thought those were the tools. What you didn't see then was that you were practicing something deeper. A philosophy. Minimalism, financially, isn't about having less. People say that, but they rarely mean it in the way that matters. It's about asking over and over, without avoiding the answer. What is this for? Every expense. Every purchase. Every decision. What is this actually for? And is it delivering what I think it is? The car you drove for 9 years, its purpose was simple. Transportation. It did that perfectly, without excess. The subscriptions you canceled, they promised entertainment. What they delivered was replaceable. They didn't survive the question. The raises you received, the promotions, the increase to $89,000 a year, none of it translated into visible upgrades. That money went somewhere else. Somewhere that builds quietly. Somewhere that compounds. Somewhere that now produces around $16,000 a year on its own. After a decade, the outcome isn't what you expected. The money matters. But it isn't the thing you're most grateful for. What matters more is the clarity. 10 years of asking what is this for has changed everything else. Your relationships feel cleaner. Your time is arranged with intention. You carry fewer obligations tied to appearances you don't believe in. There's less waste in money, in energy, in attention. From the outside, nothing stands out. The apartment is comfortable. The car is older. Your wardrobe is simple, chosen carefully. There's nothing about your life that signals excess. And that's the point. Because everything in it now has a reason. The vacations you take now are chosen for what they feel like, not how they look. And by every internal measure. The ones that actually matter to you, you are exactly where you intended to be. Devin got promoted. He's doing well. His house has gone up in value. The truck is still there, still clean, still something he takes pride in. Last month, you had dinner together. He picked the place. He insisted on paying. You let him. Because it mattered to him. Because sometimes meaning outweighs optimization. During dinner, he said something that stayed with you. I feel like I'm always trying to catch up to something. I just don't know what. You knew. But you didn't say it. It wasn't the moment. What he's chasing is what you were chasing at 25. Not a number. Not an object. A feeling. The sense that you've made it. That you can finally exhale. But that feeling isn't something you can buy. That's the quiet truth running underneath everything in this story. Not that spending is wrong. Not that wanting beautiful things is a flaw. Not that one path is right and the other is a mistake. It's simpler and harder than that. The feeling of arrival doesn't live in anything you can own. It lives in your relationship with your future. In whether you trust that what you're building is real even when it's invisible. Even when no one notices. Even when the party is somewhere else. Even when your phone lights up with snapshots of a life that looks louder, brighter, easier. When you trust that, something shifts. The need to prove that you've arrived begins to fade. Not completely, you're still human. But it softens. It becomes one voice among many, instead of the only one you can hear. At 35, you don't have the house. You don't have the truck. You don't have the renovated kitchen or the carefully staged signals that say you figured everything out. What you have is different. A brokerage account that crossed the number. A Tuesday morning that belongs entirely to you. A life whose shape feels familiar. Because you designed it. You trace it back sometimes. To that night at 25. A quiet room. A glowing screen. A cup gone cold. And a decision made without witnesses to find out what was actually real. The rules were never the point. They were just a container. A way to hold a question steady over time. And the question, the one that kept returning, again and again, every time money moved, was never. Can I afford this? Or do I deserve this? It was. Who am I building with this? And it turns out, asked consistently, over years, with honesty, without looking away, that question reshapes more than your finances. It reshapes your life. The coffee is still hot. You finish it before it cools.